Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. Now, I know this is a really different formula from what I usually do with my content, but this particular subject is just so sensitive and honestly so personal, I just wanted to treat it as such. So over the last month, Overwatch has been attacked for cultural appropriation by way of the various culturally inspired costumes provided for the majority of the characters. While it seems Blizzard's design team worked pretty hard to make the skins recognizable, a good number of people were still not satisfied. In regards to Symmetra's Devi skin, president of the Universal Society of Hinduism, Rajan Zed was cited in saying controlling and manipulating Devi with a joystick, button, keyboard, or mouse was denigration. Devi were meant to be worshipped in temples and home shrines and not be reduced to just a, quote, character in a video game to be used to combat the virtual battleground. Some of you may recall a similar situation with Smite's depiction of Kali. Rajan Zed made a similar claim and wanted the character to be pulled from the game entirely. But Symmetra hasn't been the only point of contention when it comes to cultural appropriation claims in Overwatch. Many people were incredibly upset at the Native American skins of Pharah, claiming that they were a hybridization of different tribal cultures, lacking in any distinction or definition, and instead just mishmashing iconic symbols of various tribes. Roadhog's Toa and Islander skins were also called into question, with many Polynesians upset the fact that the character is merely a stereotype of, quote, fat islanders. This came hot off the heels of a similar controversy from the new Disney movie Moana featuring Maui, a trickster demigod and cultural hero of the people who was said to just be another fat Polynesian stereotype. And while it hasn't been as public of an issue with the above-mentioned characters, Zenyatta's Jinyata, Tsunyata, and Ra skins have been called into question when it comes to stereotyping and cultural accuracy. So now the division lies between those who think Blizzard needs to remove or drastically change the cultural skins of Overwatch characters for sensitivity reasons, and those that don't think it's doing any real harm, claiming that these are just interpretive costumes that shouldn't be taken too seriously. Now, before anyone gets upset at me for saying I'm taking one side or another or blowing this whole thing out of proportion, I just want to say I'm not personally mad at anyone, either side of this situation. Both sides have legitimate points, but I think there's one critical thing here that has been overlooked for a long time. See, herein lies the problem. As a promoter of cultural sensitivity and understanding, I can completely understand where people like Mr. Z are coming from. We as a human species tend to fill the holes of that which we don't understand with that which we see in the media, or what we believe is the social consensus. If we don't understand something, we tend to just fall back on what our peers think, or what we see and hear online or on TV. And unfortunately, these interpretations become the butt of many jokes or a spawning ground of paranoia. But there's something that's being insanely overlooked here, and it's something that I've been utilizing for over 3 years now: tangential learning. For those of you who have never heard the term before, tangential learning is a process by which people educate themselves on a topic when it's presented in a context that they enjoy. Many people on YouTube have been using this concept as a teaching tool for years now. Myself, Game Theory, Extra Credits, Wisecrack, Treesicle, Kitsune Hawk, Did You Know Gaming? There are a ton of us who have used video games, movies, and even books to get our audiences motivated to learn about the truth behind the media that they love. When it comes to my work on this very channel, I've been able to teach hundreds of thousands of people about world culture through video games, anime, and even movies. But without the cultural inspirations in those media, this ability to teach, which has touched millions of people at this point, would be completely lost. For example, if Roadhog's Toa and Islander skins were removed from Overwatch, one of, if not the biggest game of 2016, I wouldn't have been able to tell the tale of Maui and his importance to Polynesian culture to over 200,000 people. If Zenyatta's Middle Eastern costumes were taken out, I wouldn't have been able to talk about who Ra as a god really was, and I certainly wouldn't have had a vehicle to talk about what Jinn really were in Islamic context. And this is the one that really kills me, guys. If Symmetra didn't have the Devi skin, which is a parallel to the Hindu goddess Kali, I wouldn't be able to debunk one of the biggest misunderstandings about her role as a goddess. In fact, let's play that clip really quick because I want you guys to understand what exactly I'm talking about.
The Devi and goddess skins, ironically both names meaning the same thing, are a reference to Kali, the Indian goddess not of human death, but the destroyer of ego and reality. The reason why Kali is adorned with skulls and other body parts is because the ego typically associates worth with the material body, which Kali destroys attachment to. This is incredibly interesting when you consider Symmetra's abilities are all about manipulation, destruction, and redefinition of reality rather than just straight up death.
Look, to the religious and cultural leaders that are negatively affected by this, I am not asking you to roll over and accept it. You are respected members of a heritage that no one has the right to steal for profits or gains. But I ask you, as one teacher to another, to please, 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 always consider the full possibilities when it comes to things like culture in video games or movies or any other medium. Trust me, I know that's hard to do. I've lived that frustration. When I was teaching English in Japan, I watched as popular media would butcher my native language. I watched as people openly accepted misinterpretations of my culture in popular media. Ever heard of Axis Power's Hetalia? Yeah, in that manga, America was literally personified as a blue-eyed, self-proclaimed hero of the world who was obsessed with hamburgers. Even at school where I taught, where it was my job to teach my kids proper English, I was constantly told not to grade my kids too hard, to let things slide. After all, my kids weren't going to actually do anything important with what I taught them, they just needed to service the pro quo until after their entrance exams. For 2 years, I stomached cultural appropriation, misuse of my culture's language and identity, even suffered humiliating racism from time to time, but instead of getting mad about it, I stuck it out. You wanna know why? Because at least my culture was there. Maybe my kids didn't know how to pronounce things perfectly, but they understood the words they were trying to say. Maybe manga and anime depicts Americans as fat, beef-obsessed, self-righteous know-it-alls, but at least the country is aware of my people. And when I had the opportunity to talk with folks that had nothing to believe in except stereotypes, they wanted to know everything about me. They wanted to know more than what they saw on TV or the internet. Who was I really? What was my homeland really? What was my culture really? That is all I'm asking, cultural leaders. I am begging you. Please, do not take away these newfound vehicles to further cultural understanding about the world from us. It takes extra work and extra time, but instead of taking, give to projects like Smite and Overwatch. Allow yourselves to be available to the developers and companies that create these games, so that when the opportunity for tangential learning presents itself, it can be correctly utilized and represented properly based on the culture of origin. For 3 years now, I've been able to teach literally millions of people about cultures all around the world because of games like these. And if all these games were just stripped of cultural inspiration, just think of that loss. Think of the vast number of people who would have missed out on learning so many cool things about the world we live in. And that while we all come from different backgrounds and cultures, we can all be united in the interest and joy we get from these simple games. Remember, always listen to each other in each side of the story. By better understanding what you disagree with, the easier you will be able to find a permanent solution. Thanks for watching, everyone. And hey, if you're looking for examples of what I mean by this whole tangential learning thing, click the annotations or link in the description to check out how culture in gaming has helped so many people understand the world better. I understand not everyone likes it or appreciates it, but I would challenge naysayers to at least consider the possibility. And if you like the idea of learning about world culture through things like video games and anime, consider subscribing here. It'll let me know that what I do is still worth doing. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah signing out.